What's going on, everybody? It's episode 3 of our preview series. As always, I'm your host, Devin Primrose, joined by my brother from another mother, Mr. Blake Ivy. What is going on, man?
Man, not a whole lot. About to celebrate my son's 5th birthday. Just
5 years,
crazy.
man.
Yeah, dude. I mean, just has flown by.
Yeah.
This kid is just huge. So pretty excited about that. We've got a party this weekend because my nephew, my sister's son, he just turned 1, and so they're gonna do like a joint birthday party. So that'll be fun. But yeah, so things are going pretty good, man. What about you? I know
There
you
you
played in
go,
your first
man.
ever disc golf tournament this last weekend.
I did a tournament. I did a thing.
Yeah,
And
man.
it went. I don't know if I'd say it went well. My first round was pretty awful. Probably the worst I've played in a long time. I had like 4 bogeys on the first 5 holes. It was bad. And that's a course I've played, probably over 30 or 40 times at this point.
Yeah.
And I know backwards to forwards. I should not have done that. But my second round was actually pretty good. I just had a couple of holes where I had mistakes, but I had like 6 birdies in the second round, so I felt good about my second round. And like the other side of it is, in my division, nobody there that I played with or saw did I feel like I couldn't at least compete with. Like, in my division, obviously people
That's good.
in higher divisions were much better. But yeah, so that made me feel better too. It's like, okay, I know that I can, at least be competitive against these guys. Maybe I can't beat them or whatever, but like I'm right there close with them. And so that made me feel good. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. I have another one coming up this weekend.
Nice.
So we'll see how that goes.
Where's that one?
It's been a good time. That's going to be up in Toccoa,
Cool.
which is on a course that I've never played before.
Ooh.
So that's probably not the best idea to do.
Are you going to get up there and like do a run through before the tournament starts? Do you have an opportunity to do that?
Probably not. I wanted to. I wanted to try to, but it's like an hour and some change away, and so it's a little difficult to just make a little drive to during the week, and I haven't had a weekend free to do it. So
yeah, that's true.
Is what it is. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah,
we'll see how it goes.
Had some preseason action last night. I don't know if you watched any of the Falcons Jets. I know that's not really like high on people's to watch list is Falcons Jets preseason game.
Yeah.
But I was really pleased with what I saw. I really liked honestly both Mariota and Ritter. I mean, obviously it's against the Jets. So like it's not showing a lot, but I mean, you still can see a lot when you see how Desmond Ritter was able to, like, his ball placement on several throws last night was impeccable.
Yeah.
And, had probably some guys that are a little bit more on some plays that were more wide open than they would be against most teams. But, it was encouraging to see. I don't know if he's going to be the future, but, it's hopefully he could be. That would be great. But, if not, I saw some encouraging things from other sides of the ball, but we're not talking Falcons tonight.
And Mariota looked good at times too. So I mean, I think you're in decent hands there, and I don't think the Falcons are going to have as bad of a season as a lot of people think.
Right.
I'm not expecting them to make the playoffs. I'm not going to say that, but
oh no.
To play competitive football at the end of November, early December, I could see it happening.
Yeah.
And a couple things go their way. Maybe they make a move, but we'll get into that next week with another guest host. We're moving up, man.
I'm excited.
2 guests in a month.
Yeah, that's great.
But tonight,
super fun.
Tonight is time to talk about the North, and these are 2 fairly good divisions. I feel like I think the AFC North, it's still the Bengals to lose, but I think that any of those other 3 teams, a couple things go their way. I think that they could be competitive right there with the Bengals. And in the NFC North, it's kind of a little bit of a transition. The Bears still don't know what they're doing. The Vikings have a new head coach. The Lions are going into year 2 with Dan Campbell, and you got A-Rod and the boys up in Green Bay. So I think there'll be some good football in both divisions. But let's start off with the AFC North. I just mentioned them, the Cincinnati Bengals, coming off that Super Bowl loss. Maybe they'll have a Super Bowl hangover. That tends to happen for teams that lose in the big game. But I've got faith in Joey B and the boys. Jamar Chase put on an excellent showing in his rookie season. But who we got coming into Cincy? Who we got leaving Cincy?
Sorry, hold on. I realized while we were doing this rundown that I wrote down the wrong record for the Packers. I looked down and I had them going 7-10, and I was like, "That's
Oh,
not right."
that's definitely not right.
So anyway, sorry, I just was adjusting that out. So sorry. So we're starting with the Ravens. Is that what you said? Is that what we
No,
are?
the Bengals.
The Bengals. How? How?
I don't
We're
know
going
how
alphabetical by first name. I paid attention to it this time, Devin.
I don't know how that happened. I think I was looking. All right. So full disclosure, I think I was looking at my standings, and I have the Bengals, number one in the North for good reason.
Right.
I'll just go ahead and throw that out there. I have them finishing 14-3, winning the division.
Yeah.
But we'll circle back to the Ravens after this. See how we're
Okay.
already in this mess.
Okay. Well, we'll go Bengals. So Bengals, they added Hayden Hurst in the offseason. A nice piece offensively at tight end, and then they added, I didn't get names down, but they added some offensive line help, because with offensive line, for 99% of NFL fans, if I tell you names, you don't know if they're
Well,
starters or
I
not.
think we talked about probably the biggest name they brought over last week with Lael Collins going
Yes.
from the Cowboys, who have had a fantastic offensive line for what feels like a decade now, going up to Cincy to help out, give Burrow some protection.
Yeah, which is huge because they lost Quentin Spain, who was one of their offensive guards, stud offensive lineman. So to need to bring in that Lael Collins, some help there. They also lost Uzama, which is huge. I mean, that guy came up massive for them in the playoffs, and his chemistry with Burrow was huge. So they also lost Ogunjobi, um, uh, defender. I think he's a linebacker, one of those like linebacker pass rusher combo guys.
Yeah.
And then in the draft, they took two safeties. They took Daxton Hill from Michigan, and then another safety from Nebraska that only that guy and his mom know their names. So Bengals didn't do a whole lot, didn't get too crazy, really. I would say maybe even a little bit on the negative side, because I see them losing Uzama and only making up for it with Hayden Hurst as a little bit of a loss.
But I will say I'm a big believer in Hayden Hurst, and I would, if you're in a deep fantasy league, like 12, 14 team fantasy league, maybe take a look at Hayden Hurst as your tight end. And here's the reason why: the kid has one drop in the last like 3 or 4 years.
Yeah,
he does not drop passes, and he's been on, this is his third team, I believe. He was with the Ravens and he was with the Falcons for a minute.
Yep.
He had a decent showing with the Falcons, not great. And with the Ravens, he was playing behind Mark Andrews. So you're not going to get a ton of a time to shine when you're in that offense. So with him being the number one guy at tight end for Cincy, I feel like he's going to have a decent season.
Yeah, I think that part of his problem is that he's never actually gotten to be like the number one option.
Right.
So he's because in like you said, in Baltimore he had Mark Andrews, and then in Atlanta, they also had, I don't remember if he was there during Austin Hooper's time.
I
If
think
there
he
was
was.
overlap
I think
there.
he was, yeah.
So Austin Hooper and then Kyle Pitts. And so there was never a time that Hayden Hurst was the featured tight end in that
Exactly.
offense. And so, who I can't remember for the life of me. Who else does Cincinnati have at tight end?
I have no idea. Uzama was the guy last year. And so Uzama's not there anymore. I think Hurst is going to be the number one tight end there.
Yeah,
Which,
and
like, he's still not going to get a ton of targets when you're playing with, T. Higgins and Jamar Chase as your best two options at wide receiver. So while he's still the number one tight end, he's not the number one receiver there necessarily.
Yeah. But neither was Uzama. I mean,
Right.
he was the guy that they could count on because he's like 6'5" or 6'6". I mean, that dude is huge, and
Exactly.
so
Yeah, yeah.
he's just a big target. But I'm just saying, like, I think that there's still significant drop off, and not necessarily significant, but noticeable drop off between Hayden Hurst and Uzama. I mean, yeah, from what they had in
Possibly.
Uzama to Hayden Hurst. But you never know how
Possibly.
chemistry is going to work out and schemes, things like that. But um, we'll see. I'm with you. I like Hayden Hurst. He was a Falcon. He's seemed like a good guy, good teammate, and I know you've got love for him because he was a Gamecock. So,
Gamecock,
um,
baby.
but anyway, so Bengals, yeah, I've got them 15-2. That's probably a little
Jeez.
high. I know. So this is probably the only team today that it's like, oh man, you think they're gonna win that many games? The rest of them, you're gonna be like, why are you so mean? Um, so just wait till we get to the rest of this division and the
Okay.
next division. Yeah, I realize, and I realize I'm coming at them a little harsh, so we'll
I
see.
honestly, I feel like the rest of the division, we're probably going to be more similar than different.
I don't know, man. We disagreed so
I,
heavily on the Raiders that I don't know if we can agree
that
on
is
anything
true.
anymore.
That is true. I
I
don't
don't
I
know.
don't I don't trust your judgment at all.
I'm
So
well, think about how I feel because I don't even know what to do with you and this nonsense that you've got cooking up. Um so anyway, yeah, I've got the Bengals win this division. I don't know that necessarily the AFC is theirs to lose.
yeah, I'm
Um
with you on that.
it'll be interesting to see if they can repeat what they had last year or if it was just kind of a um, lightning in a bottle, kind of a one-time thing
Yeah.
that and like you said, Super Bowl loss is incredibly demoralizing for a team and more times than not, they don't even make the playoffs the next season.
Yeah.
Um, and so I don't necessarily see that happening in Cincinnati because there's so much youth there that I think that the Super Bowl is only going to make them more hungry. Guys like Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, Jesse Bates in the backfield. I mean, the defensive backfield. Um,
Joe Mixon.
Joe Mixon. I mean, you've got these guys that it's like, okay, I got a taste of it. Now I want it.
Yeah.
So, it's just can they push through the 17 games to get there?
Yeah.
Um, you know, so
Well, I mean, I do think that the best thing going for Cincy is that they did their biggest problem all season was the offensive line, and they went out and that seems like that was their main priority in the offseason was fixing that and at least improving it. So at the very least, I feel like they've gone out and improved their number one area of need. Yeah, they might have had a couple of losses. On the defensive side, maybe the drop off from Uzama and Hurst is bigger than I anticipate, but I think that team is at least on par with where that team was a year ago.
yeah,
And I have them 14-3. I think that I have them third in the conference. I believe I have Chargers 15-2, the Bills 14-3. I don't know who I had win the tiebreaker. It doesn't matter.
yeah,
But I think that really it's still so tough to not say that AFC is the Chiefs to lose because when you have Patrick Mahomes, he's going to be there in the mix every year. But
yeah,
I think it's the Chargers, Bills, Bengals, and then I would probably say the Chiefs right there. It's those four teams. I think it's going to be one of those that wins this conference.
yeah.
But we'll get into that in a couple weeks.
Yes.
Um, let's move on and circle back to Baltimore
Circle
because
back.
B comes before C, apparently.
Most of the time.
So we got the Baltimore Ravens. A lot of. I don't know how I feel about this team, honestly. I think the media is hyping them up a lot, and undeservedly so. Now, they did have a lot of injuries last year, and that could be why they had as weird of a season as they did. They still got John Harbaugh, who is one of the best coaches in the league. Lamar Jackson is still a stud quarterback, although maybe not a passing quarterback. But he's still a solid quarterback. They'll get their running backs back that were lost before the season last year. Could be a much different story. But who else is back? Who is leaving? Who got added? what we got
Yeah.
shaping up in Baltimore.
So they added Kyle Fuller, cornerback from, I believe, Chicago. They added safety Marcus Williams from New Orleans. And that's really their only additions, which is hard because they lost a lot. They lost Marquise Brown. They lost Sammy Watkins. They lost Villanueva on the offensive line. They lost defensive tackle Brandon Williams. They lost linebacker Parnell McPhee. I mean, this is a team that was pretty heavily riddled with losses here in the off season.
Yeah.
And then they drafted safety Kyle Hamilton out of Notre Dame, which is a great pick. This is a guy that a lot of people had as a potential number one pick, and see as a generation, as potentially a generational Ed Reed type safety,
Right.
which obviously I would love to see. I would love to see that. And then they also drafted Linderbaum, who's a center from Iowa. Those were their top 2 draft picks. So I'm not impressed with the Ravens.
Yeah.
I need their wide receiver room is bad, but at the same time, you're not throwing the ball a whole lot. I'm sure Marquise Brown is ecstatic that it's like, I get to go to a team that with a quarterback who throws. That's great.
Did they draft a wide receiver? I thought
I
they
don't
might have.
No, I don't think they did. They didn't, at least in the first 2
Okay.
rounds, which to me, it's like you
Well,
basically didn't
I
advance it.
know last year, I believe it was, when they got Rashad Bateman, and then he went down maybe in preseason or very early in the season, so he should be back. And I like Bateman. I thought Bateman was a really solid wide receiver in college. So I don't know if he's a number one, and
Yeah.
Marquise Brown obviously has the talent to be a number one. But yeah, you still got Mark Andrews out there that can catch passes too. So
Yeah, I really see Mark Andrews as the number 1 wide receiver on this team at
I
this point.
agree. I
Um,
agree.
so, we'll see. But honestly, my biggest, well, I say my biggest beef with this team is that they're a team that's built to run the ball, and they don't really have a stud running back. Like, J.K. Dobbins is back. Honestly, we probably could put that on the plus side, because
Well,
he didn't play at all his rookie season.
I mean,
So,
we haven't seen Dobbins and we haven't seen Gus Edwards, either one of them, much because they both went down last year with
well,
injury.
but Gus Edwards they had the year before, and Gus
True,
Edwards played
true,
most of the season and never could get out of the shadow of Mark Ingram,
true.
when they were kind of the two-headed beast there.
I mean,
That
but don't forget their best running back, Lamar Jackson.
Yes, Lamar Jackson is the best running back on that team, easily. So I don't know. I I've lost my trust in Lamar Jackson as somebody who watches the league. It's like I don't know if like I'm not going to depend on him to win games. So
Yeah,
I've got them at 7-10. I don't think this is a good defense. I don't think this is a good offense outside of Lamar Jackson. 7-10 might be a little generous, even. Um,
I have them at 8 and 9,
yeah,
so I'm right there with you. Now, don't because of my faith in Harbaugh,
that's true.
I do think this team could be a 11-12 win type team and make the playoffs and maybe even make some noise in the playoffs. I think Lamar Jackson has the talent level to help get this team there, and the defense is usually solid in Baltimore. I don't love their defense, like
Right, but they've got a good
like the
scheme.
defense, right? Um, so I could see that happening. I just don't necessarily think it will.
Yeah.
I just don't understand the love for this team that the media is showing. A lot of the media is saying this is the team to beat in the North, and how do you forget about the Bengals? The
Yeah,
Bengals were just in the Super Bowl.
and, like, I think it's the same love that Cam Newton got after his MVP season, that there were, like,
Mm,
several seasons after that were like, "Well, yeah, but he's injured. Well, yeah, this," and it's like, or maybe it was just, like, the league didn't know what to do with him, and then they figured
yeah,
it out, and now what are you gonna do? And so
yeah,
I think that that's what happened with Lamar, is that he came out of the gates, he was awesome, league figured him out, and now it's like, "Okay, well, now you're gonna have to try to throw for 300 yards against us because
yeah,
you're not gonna run for 300
yeah.
yards against us."
And don't get me wrong. I want to see Lamar succeed. When he's on, he is one of the
Yeah,
most fun quarterbacks to watch in the league. So I
Yeah,
want to see him be successful. And side note on this, I believe this is a contract year for him because he's, I don't know if it's
that's
smartly
right.
or stupidly representing himself in the
Yeah.
league. Richard Sherman did that while he was in the league, and it worked out pretty well for him.
Richard Sherman
But
also went to Stanford, so
right, right. But Lamar Jackson represented himself. He doesn't have an agent. He's not having contract talks throughout the season. So if they're going to get an extension done, it's going to happen before week 1. And I don't see that happening at this point. But I could see Lamar using that and fueling him to go out and put on a show this season, and really work to get paid, and
yeah.
get paid what he deserves.
Yeah,
So that's something to watch.
I also question his injury proneness.
Right. Yes.
This is a guy who, I mean, he really does. He gets injured a lot. He's
Yeah.
his seasons have been marred by injuries, and so can he avoid that? And I'm not saying that I'm rooting for it, but you start to see these guys that it's like him and Saquon Barkley. That it's like, okay, are these guys more injury than action? So, can Lamar stay on the field in order to help this team be healthy? But obviously, like,
Yeah.
if Lamar comes in and plays at MVP level, that 7-10 that I have is going to be way wrong for
Right.
sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's going to be
So,
closer to that 12-5, maybe even 13-4 type season that I was just talking about. Yeah.
yeah, duking it out with Cincy for that division title.
Well, let's move over to the team that's in the most disarray in this division, and that is the Cleveland Browns. Obviously, the biggest news is the Deshaun Watson debacle. Um, Originally suspended 6 games. NFL appealed that decision, and they end up settling on 11 games, which leads to a perfect primetime, probably flex game of Cleveland versus Houston in Houston for the return of Deshaun Watson, which, say what you want about Deshaun Watson and whether or not he should even be playing football ever again, but that is a made-for-TV game, and maybe the
Yep.
NFL saw dollar signs, and that's why they allowed that to happen. Who knows? I'm not going to speculate on any of that, but Cleveland, 11 games, they have to rely on Jacoby Brissett. Jacoby Brissett has shown that he can be a reliable backup quarterback and reliable starting quarterback when he needs to fill in. But I don't know what to make of this. I think there's a lot of drama in that locker room now. I don't know. I don't know how, as another player, you necessarily deal with all of that in the locker room. I think it's going to be a very weird, intense kind of feeling around this team for most of this season. But who came over? Who left? What we got going on in Cleveland?
Yeah, so obviously you got Massage Boy coming in. You've got Amari Cooper, Jakeem Grant, Chase Vinovich. Those are some pretty solid additions.
Yeah,
Notably leaving, you have Baker Mayfield, Jarvis Landry, Austin Hooper. A lot. I didn't write them all down, but a lot of role players on defense. A lot of guys that
yeah,
it's like kind of tail into the career, but still contributing, or guys that are just middle of the pack. They're bodies that can get the job done.
right,
And then their center, J.C. Treader, is obviously a huge loss for them. In the draft, they didn't have any picks until the 3rd round because Cleveland going to Cleveland. And then their picks, they ended up taking a cornerback and a defensive end. And again, nobody's going to know who these guys are
right.
outside of the scouts that actually drafted them. So, yeah, the Browns, I'm not impressed with them, man. I have them. Here's this one. I'm just gonna go ahead and grab it. My spicy take is that the Browns go 4-13.
Okay, okay. I mean, again, we're not that far off. I have them at 8 and 9.
Really?
I have them at 8 and
Well,
9,
that's literally double the wins.
which is 4 games. But it's not like I have them at 12-5, 13-4 type. Like 8 and 9, I still have them missing the playoffs. I have them as the bottom of this division, and a lot of that was because of Watson missing 11 games. I don't see Brissett going out there and really getting them any more than 4 wins at best, which would mean that he would go 4-7, and then I have Watson coming in and going 4-2 down the stretch for them, which I think is also being optimistic. But I just don't know what to do with this team. They did bring in Amari Cooper from Dallas to kind of make up for the loss of Jarvis Landry. Amari's a solid wide receiver, but I don't know if he's necessarily a wide receiver one anymore, or a guy that you can really lean on as your main wide receiver. But he's
Power
solid.
hungry.
I mean, you've still got a decent defense over there. Denzel Ward, Myles Garrett, and Nick Chubb in the backfield. I think Nick Chubb's going to have a great season with Deshaun Watson out for 11 games. I think he's going to
Yeah.
go off because what are they going to do? Trust Jacoby Brissett to pass the ball 40 times a game? No.
Yeah.
So, also why I think Nick Chubb's going to have a good season is the guy sitting behind him wants out. So who knows how much he actually plays on the field. But I could very easily see them going 4-13, like you said. I don't think that's out of the cards for this team.
Yeah, I pulled up some numbers to look at Jacoby Brissett because you've talked about it. We've got a friend of the show in the Discord, Lakitu, that he is a huge Cleveland
Yeah,
everything fan.
yeah,
And he was talking highly of Jacoby Brissett, and like his career numbers are not terrible. His career quarterback rating is 83. Not
yeah,
great, not terrible. Now
yeah,
his completion percentage was a little shocking to me. It's 60%, which is pretty good. Um
yeah.
and
For a
but his
backup,
like
yeah,
yeah. For what I expected from Jacoby Brissett, that was
right.
I was impressed. And then, but like his overall career record is 14-23. Like this is not a guy that is a winner. Like this is a guy
Yeah,
who
but at the same time, like a lot of the teams that he's been on haven't been in great positions when they've had to rely on him. He's primarily throughout his career either been used as a transitional quarterback, a la Tyrod Taylor or Ryan Fitzpatrick, or a backup quarterback that has had to fill in for someone that went down with injuries.
yeah.
Um, and I don't, he's maybe the best in the game right now at that, but that's not saying a whole lot, you know?
Right. Yeah, I my thing with this team is that, like I hate to say it. I really hate to say it, but it's the Cleveland Browns, man.
Yeah.
Like like I this team there was light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
There was light at the end of the tunnel.
They
They
had they had their franchise quarterback.
and then they sold the light at the end of the tunnel for Bill Cosby's protege. Like I
Yeah.
don't get like what the Browns did is the reason why the phrase "a bird in the hand is worth two in the bush" exists. Like you had Baker Mayfield, you had
Yeah.
him,
Yeah.
and like what's so funny is they were like, "We don't want such an immature quarterback."
Yeah.
And then this is the
Yeah.
situation they ended up in,
Listen.
and willing, like knowingly put themselves in the situation. Like, that's my thing is it's like this isn't something that like all this didn't come out after the trade. This is
Yeah.
all stuff that was around before the trade. Like you knew what you were doing when you
Yeah.
did this. And like I say this as an Atlanta fan that was already like, hey, we're gonna get Deshaun Watson because that's what that's where the news was headed was Deshaun is a
I mean,
Falcon.
from what I've heard, all they were waiting on was his signature,
Yeah.
basically. And I think what ended up happening is Cleveland ended up swooping in and saying, "Hey, we will fully guarantee your entire new contract," which is just ridiculous. I still
Yeah.
think that like I don't even know if I would fully guarantee a contract to Patrick Mahomes. It's
Yeah.
like because there's so many variables in the NFL. Like, why would you do that? And now what that says to every other free agent quarterback to be is, oh, I'm getting the Watson deal. That's what I'm
Yeah.
going. That's what I'm going for. And so you've put every other team in the NFL in such a tough position now. So thank you, Cleveland, for doing that. I hope that your next, I don't know, 7 years or whatever of mediocrity was worth it.
And all this for a guy who hasn't played professional football in over a year.
Yeah,
Like, that's my thing is it's like, this is you gave the biggest guaranteed contract in NFL history by what, like $80 million? Like,
it's a
it's
lot.
something ridiculous to a guy who has moral issues to say the least. Like, if we're giving him the most benefit of the doubt, moral
Sure,
issues.
sure.
If if not criminal issues. And then it's a guy who hasn't thrown a football on a professional football field in over a year. It's just like that was my hesitation with Atlanta the whole time is it was like, man, it would be such an Atlanta thing to get rid of Matt Ryan, who is the best quarterback this franchise has ever had, for a guy
Right.
who hasn't. And I fully was expecting if he came to Atlanta for him to just be a bust. I was like, this is going to be terrible. Like, he's, of course, because it's my team, he'll come back and be terrible. But even
Right.
better is he went to Cleveland Browns and he gets to be the face of Cleveland sports horror for the next
Yeah.
30 years. I mean, I really think 30 years from now, we'll still be talking about this, especially if Deshaun comes out and he is worse than Dak Prescott.
Yeah.
Like, if it's like
But
he
I
comes back
mean,
and he's like a average middle of the pack outside the top 10 QB, it's like, what on earth did you do this for?
I mean, Super Bowl. That's what they did it for. And if they end up winning one with him, maybe it's worth it. I don't know. I that feels really dirty and wrong to say with the all of the allegations that are against him is that
Yeah.
okay, well, if we win a Super Bowl, who cares? It's worth it.
Yeah.
And I think that's what sports does to people. And I think it's tough as a business owner in the NFL because that's your ultimate goal is to
Yep.
get that. And what your players do off the field, okay, that's all that like it's hard like where do you draw the line between that and the business on the field? It's tough. I don't want to be in that position. But
Yeah, I'll be
yeah,
really
it's
interested to see because, like, you say the goal is to win a Super Bowl. It's not. The goal is to make money. Like, that's
I
at
mean
the end of the day,
that's
the
true.
owners want to
True.
make money. So I'll be interested to see how Deshaun Watson impacts that aspect of Cleveland. Like,
Yeah.
you see as soon as the news comes out, like I saw it with Atlanta, like people that were like, I'm no longer a Falcons fan because they even
Yeah.
attempted to go after Deshaun
Yeah.
Watson. Like, there's those people, and that are really loud, really quick, and it's like, okay, like
Yeah.
fine. So I'll be interested to see if there's any kind of like long-term implications financially to see how the attendance for Cleveland games is this year.
Yeah.
Is it going to go up because it is Deshaun, or are you going to see a drop in it because people are like, ugh, I feel a little icky supporting this,
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I mean, listen, I've got too many helmets. I have too many helmets. One is a Packers one. One's a Cleveland Browns one. Because I
yep.
was all aboard this Browns team. I loved them. I was all for it. And this is tough. And I'm not even a full Browns fan, so
Yeah, and like that's the hard thing with this team is that I'm with you that so much of this team, the talent is there. I think we might have said last year going into the season that on paper this was one of the most talented teams
yeah,
in the league.
yeah,
I think I had them on par with like Arizona. That it was like there's no reason this team shouldn't be Super Bowl bound.
yeah,
And I mean, you look at these guys. If Deshaun Watson gets to come in and he plays at a high level, Amari Cooper, like you said, Nick Chubb is, in our opinion of this show, top 3 running back in the league. You've got one of the best defensive players in the league in Miles Garrett,
yeah,
and lots of help around him.
yeah,
So from a talent perspective, this team is really good, and I would not be surprised if they make the playoffs. Okay, I know I have them at 4-13. That is their absolute floor. Like, I don't think there's any way they lose less. I mean, win less than 4 games.
yeah,
Um, but I mean, I think every team in this division. That's what's hard about this division. Every team in this division could go under 500 or win 12 games.
yeah. I'm with you. I'm with you on that.
But
Um,
I'm just at this point at I think maybe I'm just mad at Cleveland and Cleveland's gonna Cleveland. I like Baker Mayfield. I loved the progressive commercials. I'm really sad that we have to stop seeing those. Those were great.
Yeah, I still wish they would have done one of him moving out, but
Yeah.
it wasn't to be. But
Yeah.
let's
The one that he's moving out, and then also Deshaun has to inform all of the businesses around them of his status as he moves in.
let's move on to the Pittsburgh Steelers. This is a team in this division I'm actually really excited about. I think I am much higher on the Steelers than a lot of people. For whatever reason, I should not like Pittsburgh, but I do. Because Mike Tomlin is one of the best coaches in the NFL. The guy has never had a losing season. This will be the biggest test of his career.
Absolutely.
But reigning Defensive Player of the Year, TJ Watt, is leading that defense. You have a stud receiving room, in my opinion, between Chase Claypool, Deontay Johnson, George Pickens, Pat Fryermuth. Like, this is a good receiving core, and then you have a nice young running back coming into a second year in Najee Harris. I think this is a team that can make a lot of noise if they get quality play from the most important position at quarterback between either Mitch Trubisky or Kenny Pickett, who has had a solid preseason and could outplay Mitch Trubisky.
I don't think there's any way Mitch Trubisky starts the season.
I'm kind of with you on that.
Yeah, I don't see any way. From what we've seen from Kenny Pickett, it looks like he will push for the starting job. We'll see.
Yep.
Speaking of Mitch Trubisky, the players that we are saying hello to there in Pittsburgh and the players that we're saying goodbye to. We've got Mitch Trubisky, Ogunjobi, Miles Jack, DeMonte KZ. I'm really excited about Miles Jack. Like that dude, when he was in his prime in Jacksonville.
Yeah.
I don't know why I had so much trouble with Jacksonville. He was awesome. Electric, fast, good in coverage, intense, loved him. They said goodbye to Big Ben forever. Goodbye, Big Ben. Then the two double names, Ray and Juju. Ray McLeod. Wasn't Ray? Wait, is it Ray? What's his name? Wide receiver. Okay, Ray McLeod. Okay. Juju Smith-Schuster, James Washington, Eric Ebron, Stephon Tuitt, Joe Schobert, Joe Hayden. That's a lot of losses. But
it's a
then
lot
the
of
draft,
age though too. It's a lot of age though.
That's true. You're not wrong. Then in the draft they took the picks. You have Kenny Pickett and George Pickens. The picks.
Two of the better offensive players in the draft.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, like George Pickens is looking like he might have been a steal in that second round.
It was a steal. The only reason he dropped to the second round is because he didn't play most of the season because he was coming back from injury.
Well, he also has his off the field issues.
Sure, but as we just discussed, off the field issues can be overlooked for talent. And George Pickens was a solid wide receiver. I mean, arguably maybe the best wide receiver in that class before going down with an injury and missing almost the entire season.
Well, he also punched a guy on the sideline and then I think threw his helmet at another guy. Like he's immature. So if he can beat that, then yeah. But I think that honestly, I would think that's why his draft stock fell is the maturity.
Possibly.
But yeah, I've got this team, and I feel like I might be a little low, but maybe it's just because I don't have high expectations for Kenny Pickett / Mitch Trubisky. I'm just gonna say it and deal with your wrath. I've got the Steelers at 7-10.
That's fair. I have them at 9-8, so it's not that different.
Okay.
The only reason I have them at 9-8 is because I do question the combination of Trubisky and Pickett as to. I don't think Trubisky's that good. I think we know what he is at this point. We saw what he was in Chicago, and sure you went and had a year. I think it was just a year in Buffalo behind Josh Allen, but I don't think that necessarily improves you any. I don't think he's that good. I think that by week 4 at the latest, Kenny Pickett has taken over this team and is the starter going forward. And being a rookie, coming in, one, I didn't necessarily love him at Pitt. I don't think there was a great quarterback in this quarterback class. Uh,
Yeah.
and I would honestly lean more towards Desmond Ritter being the best of the quarterback class than anyone else. But Pickett has looked good in the preseason. And sure, it's the preseason. Sure, you're not playing against, the best players necessarily. But I think he can be serviceable, but I don't know how well he's going to perform. So that's why I have him at 9-8. I could see this team. I don't see this team necessarily going more than 11 wins, maybe 12. I think that's like everything goes right. Pickett's playing
Yeah.
fantastic. Like you have your guy. That's like that. But I could also see this team going 5 wins.
Yeah.
Like I think that's a possibility too. I just think that all you really need is quality play from and when I say quality, I mean like top 20 QB type play
Right.
from whoever's back there because the rest of the talent's there to carry. I mean, Najee Harris is going to get a ton of carries and put on a show in his second year. You have the wide receiver core. You have a solid defense led by the best defensive player in football in TJ Watt. I just I think this team is going to be okay.
But they
I don't think they're going to have that big of a down year.
they also have a pretty bad offensive line. I mean, this is Big Ben he
That's
did not
fair.
have tons of time to throw back there. Now, obviously, he couldn't move as well as he used to either.
And Trubisky and Pickett both move far better than he did.
I mean, I move far better than Ben Roethlisberger did in the end of his season, end of his career. But I mean, yeah, but mobility doesn't make you a good quarterback. You know
No,
what I'm
I
saying?
agree.
Like,
I agree. But both of those guys are sneaky mobile quarterbacks. Like
yes, but
they're not going to go out there and rush for 100, 150 yards like Lamar Jackson would. But they could go out there and push for 50, 60.
there's a huge difference in mobility and pocket awareness.
Sure. Yes, I agree.
Guys like Drew Brees, even Tom Brady. I just thought of somebody else too, Russell Wilson. That it's like their athleticism is kind of secondary. The
Yeah.
primary is they know where the pocket is collapsing, how to step up, how to move in a way that extends the play. Patrick Mahomes, same thing. That
Yes.
it's like they know how to extend the play, avoid the pressure in order to do that. Mitch Trubisky doesn't know how to do that. And unless Josh
Agreed.
Allen taught him in a year. Like he doesn't know how to do that. We'll see if Kenny Pickett does.
Right.
That's going to be to me, that's what makes great quarterbacks is that pocket awareness to know how to step up, how to move to avoid the pressure.
And when to get
I'm
rid of the ball. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm also intrigued by the exit of Stephon Tuitt and Joe Hayden. Um, uh, they are older, but like Stephon Tuitt is 29, I think. Local Georgia kid, went to Monroe area high school, fun fact. And then Joe Hayden, he wasn't that old. He isn't that old. So like it's not like those guys are and those guys were pretty big contributors on defense.
True.
So I don't know. I'm just this team. It doesn't quite impress me as much as yeah. I think there's a lot more downside to this team than upside is where I'm sitting. So,
I
but
mean I
they've
don't
got a
I
great
don't
head coach.
disagree. I don't disagree. My thing is just that I don't think it's going to be as big of a drop off as everybody else seems to.
Yeah,
I think that they're still at the very least going to be competitive with the Ravens and the Browns in this division. I'm not going to put them in Bengals territory yet, but they're the other three teams in the division. I think they can be similarly placed as those other three.
yeah. I think that
Uh,
they're better than the Browns with Jacoby Brissett for 11 games. Like
which says a lot about the Browns when we just talked about them being possibly the most talented team last year. You know what I'm saying? Like that says a
yeah,
lot about what they just lost in shipping Baker Mayfield out of town and trading for a guy that's going to sit at home for 11 games.
with
Um,
controversy. Like you've
yeah,
got like That's my biggest thing is the team chemistry in Cleveland has to be all kinds of jacked up.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, so
Whereas I don't think that's the case at all in Pittsburgh, and I'm
no.
excited to watch this team, which again feels really, really weird and wrong to say about the Steelers, but I'm for it. I think
Hey,
I think they're the most exciting team in that division.
maybe my love for the D is rubbing up on you. You know, that's really my hope is just that like you're just getting as excited about the D as I have been for years. Um,
Well,
so
just to recap my AFC North, I have the Bengals going 14-3, the Pittsburgh Steelers, excuse me, the Pittsburgh Steelers going 9-8, the Baltimore Ravens going 8-9, and the Cleveland Browns going 8-9 as well. And the only team I have making the playoffs is the Bengals.
yeah, and I'm not again as most weeks. I'm not very firm on my records. It was mostly just educated guesses. So I've got the Bengals at 15-2, the Ravens and Steelers both at 7-10, and then the Browns at 4-13. So we'll see how the AFC North shakes out.
Yep, yep. Well, let's ship on over to the NFC. And we'll start out with a real doozy in the Chicago Bears. Chicago Bears getting a new head coach in
Da
Matt
Bears.
Everfluss, or however you pronounce his name, former Colts defensive coordinator, because defensive-minded head coaches have worked out so well most recently in the NFL. But he's coming over to the Chicago Bears, which are just depleted of talent. They have Justin Fields, kind of. Neither one of us are high on him,
Nope.
and that's about it.
They're entering like the New York Giants territory of
They're
Seattle Seahawks no
Yep.
talent
Their
levels.
best defensive player in Khalil Mack is gone, and their second best defensive player in Roquan Smith doesn't want to be there. So I don't know what to make of this team. Who else is leaving? Who else is arriving? What we got going on in Chi-Town?
You got old N'Keal Harry, good old Chris Pringle. That's what I'm gonna call him because it rhymes with Chris Kringle. But you got Pringle, Pettis. They're just kind of throwing spaghetti at the wall as far as receivers go. They're like, we got to have something. And then they added some role players on defense and in the offensive line. Their losses, I'm gonna try to do this in one breath. That's what I'm gonna try to do. This is gonna be my challenge to myself. Give me 1 second. Tariq Cohen, Damian Williams, Jakeem Grant, Allen Robinson, Jimmy Graham, Marquise Goodwin, Jesse James, Jason Peters, Eddie Goldman, Akeem Hicks, Khalil Mack, Bruce Irvin, Alex Ogletree, and Danny Trevathan.
And Roquan Smith to be determined.
Right, Roquan Smith. They also lost Roquan Smith's will to play football for them. That's what they lost. Still have him under contract, but
Yeah.
he has no desire. He
I
lost his
mean,
desire.
I don't want to do what we did with the Eagles last year and pass over them and having Devontae Smith as a solid wide receiver. The Bears do have Darnell Mooney, who is a decent wide receiver, and somebody that I think could be a playmaker for them. I just don't trust the guy that's throwing the ball to him, and
Yeah,
that's the big issue.
or the offensive line.
I I just don't see this season going well for them. I have them
No.
at 3-14.
I've got them at 4-13. I didn't get to tell you about the draft picks though. They got
Oh yeah.
this might change your entire outlook. They had 2 second-round picks. That was the earliest they drafted. They had Kyler Gordon, who's a cornerback out of Washington, and Jaquan Brisker, who is a safety from Penn State. So, like that's really could change the outlook of their entire season. That's at least 2 more wins.
Bringing in the big guns. Yeah. Yeah.
Because they didn't have a first round pick because they traded it for Khalil Mack, who they then traded to the Chargers. So
Yeah.
why? Nobody knows. What are you doing?
I don't know. I don't know what to make of them. Um, the other three teams in this division are all good or trending upwards, and the Bears are sitting there just doing Bears things, I guess.
You know what's
Uh,
crazy is like I remember where I was when the Khalil Mack trade went down. I was actually in Mercedes-Benz Stadium
yeah.
for I want to say it was one of the college football kickoff games because it wasn't that soon before the season. Maybe it was one of the bowl games and it was a late, I don't know. Whenever it happened, I was at Mercedes-Benz Stadium when it happened. And I remember thinking that John Gruden was an idiot for trading away Khalil Mack.
Yeah.
Now here we are sitting, 2 years, 3 years removed from that trade, and the Bears
Maybe
traded him.
more. Yeah.
And so, like, it's starting to look like maybe John Gruden knew what he was doing. Not to praise John Gruden on this show, we probably got to be careful with that. But he doesn't look as dumb as I thought he was in that moment, because Khalil Mack hasn't really been the same. I would say he had one stellar season in Chicago, and then he pretty quickly started to decline.
Yeah.
I mean, is that safe to say?
Ish. I mean, I don't disagree with you. I think it might speak more to the lack of talent around Khalil Mack to kind of help him out. I do think that him playing next to Joey Bosa out in LA is going to be a fun show for everybody. And I think like that's what I mean by not having anybody around him. I think there are some guys that can go out there and make and be a force all on their own. And I think there's some guys that might need a little help around them to take the pressure off of them to be able to go out there and make the big plays in the backfield. And maybe that's what happened with him in Chicago. And maybe when he has a partner to line up against or line up next to.
Are you kidding me? Akeem Hicks? That dude is a freaking force, and he played alongside him his entire time in Chicago.
That's
Akeem
true.
Hicks is an
That is true.
absolute monster.
That is true. You might be right.
So
I could be. Listen, I'm just talking out my butt over here. Don't listen to me.
So here's Khalil Mack's career. So starting in 2014, he was a rookie. He had 4 sacks. Then he had 15 sacks, 11 sacks, 10.5 sacks. That was his time in Oakland. Real good success. Yeah. Then in Chicago, he gets traded. He gets 12.5 sacks his first year. So his second highest sack total in his career. Then 8.5 sacks, 9 sacks, 6 sacks last year. Now he only played 7 games last year. But
I mean, those are still solid numbers though, man.
Yeah, but not for what Chicago gave up for him. Like, you don't give up all that they gave up to get 8.5 sacks and 9 sacks out of this guy. Like, this guy, you were paying for double-digit sacks. That's what you were expecting out of him. So anyway, I just think that's I'm interested. It's interesting to me because I was definitely I was wamboozled by that trade when it happened, but it seems like it's worked out more in Vegas's favor. It's going to take me. I didn't say Oakland in Vegas's favor than it did in Chicago's favor. Who, by the way, back to the topic at hand. I have them at 4-13. I don't think this team is good, and 4-13 might be generous. I mean, this could be a 2-win team, easy.
Either way, it ain't looking good for the Windy City. So
no, I honestly, I did my I did my picks before I looked at how many players this team lost. I think I probably would have given them 2 less wins. I think I probably do have this team closer to the 2-15 team.
Yeah.
This is bad.
It's not good. But let's jump over to the most exciting team in this division, maybe the most exciting team in football, the face of Hard Knocks this year, which has been a blast to watch because of multiple guys, but mainly one big guy out there in Detroit. I'm talking about the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. MCDC, Motor City Dan Campbell, leading the Detroit Lions. Year 2, I am all aboard this team. Listen, I jumped on this team early last year. I was all for them, pushing them. Come on, you gotta get that win. And just when I started giving up on them, they broke through and they got it. Then they went 3-3 down the stretch, which I think showed a lot. And I think this team's going to be even better this year. I've got high hopes for them. We're talking Detroit Lions football. Who came over and joined them? Who left? What we got?
I want to ask you this question before I say this. Do you have the Lions making the playoffs?
I do have the Lions making the playoffs.
Oh my gosh!
I
Don't.
have them as the 7th seed, so they're sneaking in. They're sneaking in.
You also gave the Raiders 10 wins. So,
I
all
gave
right,
the
so
Raiders more wins than that, actually.
that's true. They added DJ Chark, really solid piece.
Solid piece.
And if I'm not mistaken, that's really the only big contribution
Probably.
they had. They lost Nick Williams, defensive tackle. They lost Trey Flowers, also on the defense. But they had a pretty nice draft. They picked up Aiden Hutchinson. They added Jamison Williams, wide receiver from Alabama, and they added Pascal, who was defensive end from Kentucky, who looks like he's also. He was a guy that looked like he could have been a steal too. But I've only got this team going 8-9.
Okay,
And
okay. Hey, I'm here for that.
and
That's much improved from 3-13
that's
and
true.
1.
Yeah. I'm with you that like I really like what's his name? Ramon St. Brown. What's his name?
I'm on Ross St. Brown, yeah.
Yeah. Whatever his first name is, St. Brown. He second half of last year started to look like a stud. You add DJ Chark, DeAndre Swift is healthy, getting into the mix of things.
I think DeAndre Swift and Jamal Williams might be a top 5 running back tandem in the league.
They could be. You got Penei Sewell on the offensive line that's probably just going to get better.
Yep.
I don't love this defense.
The defense is the question mark for sure.
I don't love Aiden Hutchinson. People were freaking out about him because week 1 he got a sack against Atlanta, and I wanted to be like, he's playing against Atlanta, right? Like you should definitely calm down if you're like, man, he sacked an Atlanta quarterback, and it's like, right, yeah, that's like pretty easy to do. So anyway, Aiden Hutchinson disappeared in Michigan's game against UGA, which is the closest thing he's faced to NFL talent level defense or offensive line. So, I'm not rooting against the guy, but I thought that 2 was a little high. I played against weak competition in college, but a lot of those guys did. A lot of those guys played in not no name, but lesser conferences and still came out studs.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm just not super impressed with the Lions on defense. And when your quarterback is Jared Goff, but maybe they got a little magic. They got a coach that is a fantastic motivator. They get to play the Bears twice and the Vikings twice.
Fantastic motivator is putting it lightly. I think anybody would run through a brick wall for that man. He's the best.
Yeah.
Probably my favorite coach in the NFL right now. And that's not because of his record or anything, because statistically, he's not been great because they went 3-13-1 in his first season. But he's fantastic, man. He's the best. I have this team going 10-7, so I'm not far off from you.
Yeah.
And again, I have them getting the 7th seed in a weaker, I say weak, but it's not terrible, but it's weaker than the AFC. Weaker NFC. I think that they can be competitive. Every single game last year, up until they finally got that win, they were in. They lost in inexplicable ways. And so I think all that team really needed to do was learn how to play not 55 minutes, but 60 minutes and play a complete football game, because that's what happened in most of those games is they lost it down the stretch in those last few minutes of the fourth quarter. And I mean, it took a 66-yard field goal to beat them one year, which is that's a record. It doesn't happen.
Right.
I mean, so I have a lot of faith in this team, mainly because of the guy that's running the show there. I agree with you that Jared Goff is not a desirable quarterback to have. However, this guy was in the Super Bowl, 4 years ago?
And was an MVP candidate.
And that's not necessarily because of him, but it's because he's able to be managed, I think, by a coach that knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
And I think that Goff is good enough to give them double-digit wins. I'm not going to say that they're going to make much noise in the playoffs, but I think that getting 10 wins that's a reasonable expectation. I don't think that's that outlandish. The defense is definitely a question mark. However, they did what they did get some pieces in the draft to help them
Yeah.
out. I think that defense will be better, and that's a sneaky good wide receiver core that you have between Shark, St. Brown, and Jamison Williams. And again, Jamal Williams and DeAndre Swift in the backfield might be top 5 in the league. I think this team has what it takes, man.
Yeah. I mean, we'll see. Obviously, you've been sipping the MCDC Kool-Aid because you are hyped up. It sounds like you're ready to go take the field, maybe pick up a clipboard and yell at some dudes and smash it over your knee. But like, you're definitely feeling it. But like, I just don't feel like. Here's my thing. Here's my thing with the Lions is like, this is a team that won three games, and I'm with you. Like, they were in almost every loss that they had, right?
Yes.
Like, a couple things are different, and this is a 7-win team last year, but they didn't add much. Like, they
That's
didn't
fair.
add, like, there's not much change, and like, I don't think this team is just going to get better from vibes. Like, it's like this team isn't going to go from a 3-win team to a playoff team just because they
I don't know, man. Like they're a young team, and I think that
Who is young?
a lot of this team is young. Amon-Ra St. Brown, DeAndre Swift, Jamal Williams ain't old. Panay Sewell, Aiden Hutchinson, like they have young guys. It's not
Right, but they also have Jared
TJ
Goff.
Hawkinson. Also, TJ Hawkinson's a solid tight end.
That's fair.
I just think that they were good enough to compete last year. They just couldn't finish a game. And so I don't think you necessarily had to go out and add a bunch of pieces. Like, I think the pieces are there. They just got to get the confidence in themselves and the stamina to finish a complete game.
They just needed the moxie. You got moxie, kid.
Yeah.
You can go out there and win you one of them football games if you just believe in yourself.
Exactly. That's all they needed. I got faith in them, man. I got faith.
All right. Well,
10-7. Book it. I'm calling it now. Double-digit wins in the Motor City.
That would be bananas. I feel like that would like you probably could make some money on that bet if that's what happens.
Double-digit wins for Dan Campbell. Does that give him Coach of the Year?
Yikes. I mean, there's no way to know because Coach of the Year depends on so many things of like who does what. If a team goes undefeated, like they're winning Coach of the Year.
That's the thing. Typically, it goes to either a team that goes like 15-2 or 16-1, something ridiculous, or a first-year head coach that goes 10-11 wins. But if you're Dan Campbell and you turn around a program that went 3-13-1 to 10-11 wins, I'd put his name in the run. I'm just
you know who should win Coach of the Year if he stops going for 2? Is old Madden boy out there in LA. That's who should win it. If he can just get out of his own head and stop making stupid play calls based on stats. I can't even remember his name, and I kind of don't even want to. Like
Brandon Staley.
Yeah. Staley. If he would just go, you know what? Let's kick some extra points this year. Coach of the Year. Like I would deliver it to his house if he would just stop going for 2 and onside kicking. Like, just I don't know, stop going for it on 4th and 4.
Yeah,
doofus. Yeah. Anyway,
I'm with you.
We're not even talking about them. But anyway,
it's time, man. The time has come to talk about the best team in the North, the one, the only, the Green Bay Packers.
You know what? I'm not going to disagree with you. I think this is the best team in the NFC North, pretty easily. their off season was mostly marked with huge re-signings. They had a lot
Yes.
of guys that they needed to lock up, that they locked up, they re-signed, they got them back on big deals. They added Sammy Watkins. That's really the only like notable addition, which is not great. And then their moment of silence for Devontae Adams, obviously.
It's okay. I've come to terms with it, man. I'm
Yeah,
good with it.
yeah.
Go
Go
off.
be
Enjoy the sunset in Vegas with your
go off,
boy
King.
Derek Carr. I get it.
Uh, Also lost old MVS, whatever Marquez Valdez Scantling.
We lost the 4 games he plays a year for us. No big
Yep,
deal.
you lost the man with the both softest and hardest name in the NFL, Whitney Merciless. It's like his
Also,
parents were like, well, his last name's Merciless, so let's
I
give him
think
something like really
I think
soft.
he played like 3 games for us last year. No,
Maybe.
not a big deal.
Yeah. He's old. I get it. But Zadarius Smith, that's a pretty big loss. Kevin King, also another loss to that secondary. But
Not really.
in the draft, you went double dog, and they got linebacker Quay Walker and defensive tackle Devontae Wyatt, and then they added jump back up in the draft to get wide receiver Christian Watson from North Dakota State, as we all know, who turns out fantastic wide receiver products. So so the Packers, I don't know. I would say I would probably give them an L for the offseason.
Fair, fair.
You know, it's hard to do that though because of their re-signings. They re-signed Devondre Campbell, re-signed Aaron Rodgers, re-signed Big Bob Robert
Roswell Douglas.
Russell Douglas. Yeah, big re-signed. Didn't Jair Alexander get an extension too?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, so you had a lot of like good re-signings, but as far as changes to the team, you know, you lost a whole lot and added
Listen,
Sammy Watkins.
listen. You talk about Kevin King being a big loss for them. Kevin King's days in Green Bay have been numbered since he got burned by Scotty Miller in the championship game against the Bucks a couple years ago.
Listen, I didn't say it was it's just a notable loss, okay? Like that when I look at these lists and it's like, "Oh, I know that name." It's a notable loss.
It's not notable. As
Like
a fan, I will tell you, I was ready for him to be gone. I was so happy that Roswell Douglas came in and was lights out for us at corner,
that's true.
especially in the year where Jair was injured. And to have those two guys as your starting cornerbacks healthy going into the season is going to be a nasty secondary, especially with Adrian Amos back there at safety, who's one
Yep.
of the best safeties in the league. I think this defense could be top 3, maybe top 5 at least. I mean, this defense is good.
For those
If
of you guys
everybody can stay
listening,
healthy.
For those of you guys listening, the look on Devin's face when he was saying that this defense could be top 3 is the exact same look that my kid is going to have tomorrow when he's opening presents. Like Devin's face when he just said this team is going to be team could be top 3 defense. I don't think
Listen,
I've ever seen him as excited about anything in the
it's
entire time I've known him.
it's been like 12 years since Green Bay's had a top 10 defense, let alone top 5.
Yeah, back when Clay Matthews had short hair.
Exactly. I mean, this team looks good on the defensive side. Rashawn Gary could have, I mean, borderline did have a breakout year this year or last year and could have an even bigger one this year. Preston Smith is going to be solid coming back from the injuries he was dealing with. Devondre Campbell is a huge extension there in the middle of the field. What he did in his I mean, we talked about it last year. You talked about it in our preseason last year. Him coming over from Atlanta is a big deal, and he proved you absolutely right. He had a lights out year for us, and I'm hoping that he does the same this year again. I'm with you that they did not do enough on the offensive side of the ball. The offensive line, though, is still a solid offensive line.
Yep.
You
still
have
got a two-headed monster at running back.
yes, in Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon, mini Derrick Henry back there,
Oh my gosh.
Quadzilla in the backfield.
I'm
Aaron
gonna give
Rodgers,
you a spicy take every time you refer to AJ Dillon in the same sentence as Derrick Henry, unless it's they both got injured this week. I'm giving you a spicy shake.
Aaron Rodgers can make anybody look like a stud wide receiver.
Yeah.
I am worried at wide receiver. I'm not loving what we got in the room currently. A lot of that is because there's so much there's so much unproven potential. Christian Watson, the rookie, hasn't. I don't think he's played much at all in the preseason because he's been injured. So him coming off that injury, who knows what he's going to do this year in his rookie year? Romeo Doubs looks like a good wide receiver from his preseason play, but who knows what's going to happen when he actually gets into the real season against real players. Alan Lazard, I've loved, but he's not a wide receiver 1. He's a wide receiver 2 at best. Sammy Watkins hasn't been good in years. I say he hasn't been good in years. Hasn't been great in years. He's been solid. Randall Cobb hasn't been good in years. A lot of question marks there. Robert Tonyan at tight end, if he comes back, that's going to be huge.
Yep.
The offensive side is where the struggle is going to be. But it's Aaron Rodgers. Matt LaFleur has been a lights-out head coach in the 3 years he's been there. So I have nothing but faith in him. I've got them going 12-5.
I actually have them going 14-2. So,
well, I think there's 17 games, so we've got to do better than that.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I don't know. I think it's probably supposed to say 14-3.
That's fair. Yep. I mean, I think that's crazy when you just talked about the offensive weapons that they don't have.
Right, but the thing is they still have that bad man.
Bad man.
Dude, Aaron Rodgers is so good. He's so good, and he's not getting worse.
Yeah.
He's not. And so
back-to-back MVPs.
Like I'm looking at wide receivers who are currently available. You got Will Fuller, you got T.Y. Hilton, you got Emmanuel Sanders, who he is older than I am. So
you got Odell.
You've got Odell, you've got Adam Humphries, you've got D.D. Westbrook. Like, kick the tires on D.D. Westbrook, dude. That guy looked like a stud at one point.
Yeah, I don't know how the Packers haven't made a move for any of these guys, and maybe by the time week 1 rolls around, they will have gotten one. But if you were gonna get one, why wouldn't you have gotten one by now? I don't know how half those guys are still sitting out there available.
And you've got 2 guys that sound like they should play for Green Bay, and Daz Newsome and Jaquez Izzard. Like, those sound like guys that it's like, who is catching a touchdown from Aaron Rodgers right now?
That's
Wheatfall, Carrick Wheatfall. That guy sign him today. But no, this Packers team, like, that's going to be huge if the Packers can go as a team built around Aaron Rodgers to a team built around being an unbelievable defense, and then give you some time to find a quarterback, or I don't know. I'm not even willing to give Jordan Love the time of day to even, like, hypothetically give him time to develop.
No. Listen, Jordan Love is nobody to me at this point. They shouldn't have drafted. They shouldn't have traded up to draft him. They shouldn't have kept him around this long.
Nope.
I think that it's more so pride than anything. I think that the front office doesn't want to admit they made a mistake, and I'm done with him. He's looked bad in the preseason. Guy went out there against scrubs in week 1. Nobody plays actual starters in week 1, and he threw 3 picks. Like, get out of here. You're like, come on. I can't go from having Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers to having Jordan can't complete a pass Love. I can't do it. And I won't do it. As a dang fan, I won't do it. I won't stand for it. I will be fully on the Detroit Lions bandwagon if that day comes.
Oh man, if I have to watch you go from Packer decked out and everything to Lion decked out and everything,
Jared Goff jersey on the way.
I don't know what I'm gonna do with it. Yeah, I think the Packers are solid. It's just, can Aaron Rodgers stay healthy and play every game this year? That's really all it's gonna take.
Back-to-back MVPs, man. It's going for 3 in a row. Let's move over to Minnesota, where A lot of question marks around this team. Uh,
Mostly on the
I
talent
I
perspective.
feel like I say it every year that this team on paper is talented enough to compete, and I still feel that way. I still feel like, especially on the offensive side, there's so much talent on the offensive side that's just been wasted. A lot of that was due to Mike Zimmer as their head coach, and now they've brought in Kevin O'Connell, who was the offensive coordinator for the Rams for the past few years. Rams have had a dang good offense. Maybe he can bring over some of that magic that he's learned from Sean McVay. I don't know, man. I can't trust this team at all.
This is a team that lost a lot. Okay, this is a team they added Jonathan Bullard, which is a nice pickup in the middle of the defense. They added Zadarius Smith, who we just mentioned as a big negative for Green Bay, so we would have to mention him.
But
Uh,
Darius has also dealt with injury the last year or two, so
we'll
keeping him
see.
healthy is going to be a big
Okay,
deal. Yeah.
listen, you can't make him a loss on one team and not an addition on another. Okay.
Well, first off, I didn't say he was a loss. I just didn't argue with you necessarily.
Then the Vikings lost Everson Griffin, which is pretty big.
That is a big deal.
Michael Pierce, Sheldon Richardson, who's been anchoring that defensive line for years. Anthony Barr, again, a solid linebacker. And then Xavier Woods, their safety, who's been there again as a
Yeah.
borderline all pro or borderline pro bowler for years. They did draft Lewis Seen, safety out of Georgia, and Andrew Booth Jr., who's a cornerback out of Clemson. But this is not a team that impresses me. That don't impress me much. That's it. That's the new catchphrase. That's my catchphrase for season 2 of Booth Review. I'm gonna sing it. Get ready at least once an episode from now on. It's happening. But yeah, they don't impress me much. That's twice this episode, just because I haven't done it yet. Before this episode, I got to make up for lost time. So yeah, aging Kirk Cousins. Dalvin Cook, who probably hasn't played 16 games in his entire career.
Oh.
And then, sure, you got one of the people are way too high on Justin Jefferson, in my opinion.
What?
Like way too high on Justin Jefferson because he plays for the Vikings. Okay.
Oh, come on.
Like,
now.
let's calm it down.
Come on now.
And like, I don't know. I'm not big on this team. I've got them at 7-10, and now that I'm really thinking about it, that's generous. I think 5 wins is probably more like it of what I would put the Vikings at.
I've got them 8-9, so we're right there. I don't know if 5 games. It's tough, man. I feel like I'm a bigger Kirk Cousins believer than a lot of people. The dude statistically is a top 10 quarterback, if not top 5. I mean, he's a solid quarterback. However, you can't trust him. But I think I like the weapons that they have around him. Justin Jefferson, I think, is a solid wide receiver, despite what you say.
No, okay, listen, I'm not saying that he's not solid, but people are trying to make him the best receiver in football, and I'm not quite there yet.
Oh no, I'm not going there.
But there are people who are trying to make that argument right now that Justin Jefferson
he's a top 10
in the conversation for top 2.
He's top 10.
I'm not. Yes, absolutely. I'd give him top 10. I would say he's knocking on the door of top 5. I'd probably put him in the top 7. But
also, I think you can make an argument that the combo of him and Thielen is one of the best 1-2 punch at wide receiver in the NFL.
That's fair.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I like the talent that's around
Kirk. Yeah, Kirk. He's got talent around him, especially include Dalvin Cook. I mean, but I don't know, man. Like, this is not a defense
I think there's
that scares me in any way.
Yeah, I'm with you, and I think that similar to the Cardinals, there's so many question marks. I think that while there's a lot of talent on the offensive side, can you get that talent out of them, which has seemed to be a problem for a couple of years now? And this is a first-year head coach in Kevin O'Connell. So what are you going to get with first-year head coach? It's hard to tell. So I'm with you. I think that floating around 500, give or take 2 games is probably accurate.
Yeah, I speaking of my random stat that I wanted to look up, I was correct. Dalvin Cook has never played more than 14 games in a season.
That's crazy.
You can always count on him missing a couple of games. So I know because I think I've had him in fantasy football every single year he's been in the league.
But as we argued about last year, Alexander Madison is a solid backup running back.
I don't know. I whatever. I don't have the energy to argue with you about this at this point. Okay. At this point of the day, I'm not getting into Alexander Madison argument territory.
That's fair. That's fair.
But yes, I do disagree with you.
So just to recap, my NFC North, I've got the Packers number 1, 12-5, winning the division fairly easily. I've got the Detroit Lions finishing second at 10-7 and sneaking into the playoffs. You're gonna be having January football in Detroit this year, Lions fans.
You won't have it in Detroit.
That's fair.
They ain't hosting a playoff game, okay? Let's get that out of the way. Detroit is not going to be hosting a playoff game this year.
Fair. I've got the Vikings finishing third at 8-9, and the Bears bringing up the rear at 3-14.
Yeah, I've got the Packers at 14-3, the Lions in second place in the division at 8-9. I'm gonna just on the fly give the Vikings 5 wins and the Bears 2 wins, even though that's not what my prediction had. I'm gonna knock them down, knocking them down a peg, because I'm negative, and that's what I do. That's my playoff. I mean, my season picks. You're either going 14-3 or you're going 3-14. There is no in between. We don't believe in. Oh, the only 8-9 team is the Lions. Everybody else is either going to be absolutely garbage or incredible.
Detroit Lions are a 10-win team. Don't be discounting them 2 wins.
Okay, no. I'm sure one of the wins I'm giving the Bears is in Chicago against the Lions. Like it's like, I might as well give them.
No, man, no way.
We'll see.
Anyways, thank you for joining us for another episode. One more week, man. We got one more week of talking predictions for divisions, and then we're jumping into it, man. 2 weeks away from talking about week 1 football. It's going to be fantastic. Next week, we have a special guest joining us to discuss the South divisions. So make sure you tune in for that, as always. And we thank you for listening in whatever format you are, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, whatever. Go follow us on our socials that we don't use. Really hop into the Discord if you really want to get involved with us, because that's where we hang out more than anything else. But as always, we thank you. We appreciate you. We love you. And I think that's that. Solid episode, man. Solid episode.
Good show.
Oh gosh, I got a freaking cough though. Like my sinuses started acting up like a couple days ago, and
got that Rona.
Yeah, I had the Rona like a month ago. All right, now, don't bring that back on me,
man. I changed for the Bears and then forgot to change again.
That's okay.
For the Packers and the Lions and the Vikings.
Just making up for it now.
Yep, might as well. I've got the technology to do it. Might as well just do it later.
Hayden, I don't know if you're still in here, buddy, but thanks for hanging out, man.
Yeah, man. Appreciate it. Can't wait for next week.
Yes, sir.
Do your homework.
I do have to figure out how to. I realized about maybe 5 minutes into the podcast that I forgot to press start recording. So I'm going to have to figure that out. But I figured it wasn't worth going back and trying to do a whole 5 minutes again. So
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I don't
Is what
know.
it
Yeah, I don't
is.
know what the other option is. So
Well, I feel like I can just download it off YouTube and then do it that way. But
yeah, why not?
yeah, I'll figure it out.
Yeah,
Technology, man, technology.
technology.
Well, we appreciate it, Hayden. Thanks for hanging out, man.
Yeah, man. It was good.
We're
Always
gonna
good.
we're gonna call it a night, but we'll be back next week with you,
Yep.
having a grand old time. So
Awesome.
we'll
Sweet.
catch y'all later.
Later.